Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Shroud's kill of Mythic Mother. Feel free to toss me an invite on Twitch, the link's below in the description. So first off, there are a couple different methods to killing this boss, but I'm just going to cover the one that we used to kill the boss. I'll briefly go over the one that we tried, and which is just a slow trickle of sending people over to room 2, 2 to 3 people at a time, but that wasn't working out for us. Therefore, we switched to sending about 10 to 15 people within 2 seconds and used all of our raid damage reduction cooldowns and a trinket. So we had Disc Bubble, the Devo Aura, and 2 Darknesses, Warrior Shout, and the trinket, I believe is what our cooldowns were for our kill. Ideally, we would have a Shaman for the totems, but we didn't have that in our comp. Once you got your people over there from the first group of 10 to 15 players, you should have a AoE stun rotation so that no casts get off from the mobs. During that rotation, you'll be AoEing the crap out of those mobs to get them down, and you'll probably be left with like the tank and a healer mob or 2 that are left up. Can't interrupt their casts, so you'll just have to stun them or push them back until they're dead. And if any of the other little DPS bloods to get through, then make sure and they're still living, just make sure that you have them interrupted so you don't AoE or raid down with their debuff. So speaking of ads, there are 3 different versions of them on Mythic difficulty. The first is the typical one that you see in Normal and Heroic, and that has an interruptible cast. The second and third ones are specific to the tank and healers that pass through the barrier. None of the tank and healer ads can be interrupted, as I said, and they need to be stunned, pushed, etc. or interrupted. This is very important because their buffs hurt, and the tank definitely has to tank that tank ad because he'll kill your melee real fast, or whoever you send over there for AoE. The healer ads cast a debuff that if not stunned and it gets off, that person needs to be dispelled immediately. Once that person has nobody within 5 to 10 yards. This is very important because you can have the debuff during fire and beams. So as you'll see with the horizontal safe zone for when the beams come down from the ceiling, you need to have your tank on one side facing the boss away so nobody gets cleaved, and then the person with the debuff will run to the other side and they get dispelled. Otherwise, the debuff will just keep spreading across your raid and you'll probably wipe from it because it's a ton of damage. Once those first 10 ads are down, we bring over more people from the first room, 1 to 2 people at a time, sometimes 3, and we kill their ads. It's just DPS ones, so it's really pretty boring until you get the boss over there. The key is to use the entire duration of room 1 for when the room 1 explodes and they get fire on the ground, because you need that time for your cooldowns that you use for damage reductions to get to phase 2 or room 2. You need those cooldowns back up so that you can transition the same way to room 3. During the transition from room 1 to 2 and then eventually to room 3, you still have your beams, winds, and fires and the boss cleave to deal with. Same from Normal and Heroic, but the only difference is the beams on Mythic now come from the ceiling as well as moving across the room. So they'll always move in the same order. It's always going to be from side to side and then from top to bottom. The gap between the side to side and top to bottom is like a second or 2, so if the boss is going to do a slam, your tank can be outside in the safe zone if needed before the ceiling comes down and kills the tank. And if it's a DK, they can just pop the magic barrier spell to absorb all the magic damage that the things do, and they'll live. Fire and winds are pretty easy to deal with, nothing really special about those. I mean, our ideal comp, if we had to really choose, we would have had a Resto Shaman or another Shaman to give us movement speed totem, but that's not really a big deal because the winds don't get harder on Mythic difficulty. So to transition to room 3, we use the same strategy that we used to get to room 2, except the only difference is that we let the tank that was killing the boss over or holding the boss in room 2, we let him and his 2 healers die. That way they don't have to come through the barrier and trigger the ads for us to kill, because this was necessary due to the enrage timer for us. If we spent time killing the ads, then we were wiping for the enrage timer. So we just decided not to have to kill them and sacrificed our tank and 2 healers, because there's almost no healing that should ever have to go out except on the tank in room 3, or if you have some bad people that can't do mechanics. So they'll either be dead or they'll take a little bit of damage from fire on the floor. Besides dealing with those 3 mechanics of beams, wind, and fire that happen a lot more often in room 3 than they did in room 1 and 2, it's just a tank and spank until the boss either dies or you wipe to the enrage and or other mechanics. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and give me a follow. Links in the description. Thanks. Bye.